The reason we're all here and thinking about shaping Wyoming's future is because it turns out that the people who are affected most by the economic challenges that Wyoming faces aren't old people like me. They're young folks. They're people who will inherit the decisions that we make. And I know that my board of directors really works hard to make great decisions for the state of Wyoming, but it's really difficult to do that when you don't have the voice of young people. And here's what I will tell you about as you advance in age. As you advance in age, you think you know what matters to young people because you think to yourself, I was young once. I remember what that was like, but you don't. It's really, really hard to do. And so Sarah began to think, she's like, well, we should start talking to students more. We should try to understand what students feel like about the future of Wyoming. And I said, well, golly, we're doing our board meeting in September at Laramie at the University of Wyoming. Let's do a student panel. Let's get people together and let's try to find out a little bit more about what students feel and how they feel about joining the economy in Wyoming or whether they can or not. And let's make this happen. And it sort of took off from there. And here's what I found over the course of the last few months. Now, many of you have heard that, kids these days, and when I was a kid, if you've said those things, that means you're old. That's really all it means because it's not actually true. It's not true at all. In fact, the folks who have done the lion's share of the work and the folks who have made this what it is going to be, which I think is going to be pretty amazing, are all people who we don't even pay fairly at the business council, which is pretty cool, but they're all students. They're all who we would consider kids these days or young people don't want to work. That's just not true. In fact, I'm really excited about the future. And the more I work with people who are much younger than me, the more excited about the future I get. And the more I think we're in really, really good hands. And at the same time, in Wyoming, we face some pretty decent economic challenges. And we're working really hard to do that. But again, without the voices of people like these four up here and those you see around you, we can't make a full decision. We can't make great decisions about our future. And so that was really the genesis of today and really why we're most excited about it. And as such, I'm going to stop talking and let these folks do all the talking for the next hour or so. So, well, not completely stop. It's impossible for me, people that know me. But I do want to introduce our panel here. And first off, we have Corbin DeWitt, who's a sophomore in entrepreneurship. We have Daljit Kaur, who is a sophomore in accounting and economics. We have Gwen Hargett, who is a sophomore in political science. And we have Ralph Fawaz, who is an MBA student here. And we're going to start off by having each of them tell us a little bit about themselves and about why they're here today. So thanks, panel, for being here.
Oh, how's this? Oh, there we go. Good. All right. What's up, everyone? My name's Corbin DeWitt. Like you said, I'm an entrepreneurship major here at the College of Business. Currently, I'm running a couple different companies in the aerospace sector that I work on in my free time. And if you students, know about free time, it doesn't exist, but we make it exist. Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur committed to helping the younger generation. I want them to turn their business aspirations into an actual reality. My goal is to make my current company highly profitable, like most people. But this is so I can make an empowerment alliance. I want to help provide resources and mentorship to kids that into reality, make them practical and real. Growing up, I always had a lot of ideas. It's sort of my curse. I never stopped thinking, which is a good thing and a terrible thing at the same time. But I didn't have the knowledge or backing to achieve many of those goals, which made it challenging at times. So I'm driven to make this change just because I wish I had more mentors across the different vast majority of the state. I had one or two here and there. I know I could have accomplished so much more and so much sooner if I had this with the right support. And that's why I'm passionate about giving the young people the advice that I kind of missed out on, especially within When I first had the idea to start my aerospace company, I had no clue where to begin, like many people. But through perseverance, I kind of just figured it out along the way. Building the plane after we take off. It's not a fun thing to do, in case you're wondering. The bugs and wind is just hair. I'm a big hair guy. That's what I'm doing. Um, so yeah, while my family supported me in every way they could, none of them really had specific business experience that I needed, especially within drones and aerospace. That's not an area that many people know about. So, and this led to a lot of struggles. I felt isolated and overwhelmed throughout high school. However, through persistence, learning from others, and building connections across the state, I have a couple different companies within the aerospace industry, and I personally feel we're growing pretty quickly. I've had great support, like I said, from my family, but also my community. I'm from Shoshone, so if anyone knows where that is, a little town, yeah, get it up there. Um, they supported me limited amounts that they could, and personal development stuff like that. But so I just didn't have the business resources that I was looking for. That's why I'm determined to create the kind of support network for others, especially young people with big ideas and they just feel it's not possible. I want to make sure they know that's possible. Before I finish, and I just want to let everyone know, especially if you're a student here, please come up. Feel free to talk to me after this. I'd love to discuss some things. Like I said, I'm always thinking, so might be able to help you out with something, or even if you're part of the state or the business council. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I talked with a couple people beforehand. I know I love to talk, and I'm a person too. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, so never feel intimidated to talk to someone. That's my first thing. I talk to anyone, and if I get shut up real quick, I mean that's a part of life. But yeah, so thank you very much.
All right, now I have to follow that up. So I'm Daljeet Kaur, as you already know, and I'm a sophomore studying accounting and economics. And I'm currently at the point in my life where I'm kind of figuring out where I want my future to be because I don't have a set in stone end goal yet, but I'm figuring that out. And in that, it's kind of figuring out where I want to be and whether that be in Wyoming or not. But kind of like starting from the beginning is I'm originally from Burns, Wyoming, so I've been in Wyoming my whole life. But my parents originally moved from New York, where my grandpa originally came from India. So we've been all over the place, and a lot of the times we get asked, "How would you end up in Wyoming?" Of all the places, New York to Wyoming doesn't really add up. But it was opportunity. My dad was able to find an opportunity here and build his dream business. And I saw him build a business in a community where he was completely unfamiliar, new, never, he didn't know anything about this place. He was able to build this community from the bottom to the top. And now I really feel like that community has become a big part of my life. And he always says, like, your life would be completely different if we stayed in New York. And I think moving to Wyoming was for the better. Like the amount of opportunities and networking and just the family oriented vibe that I was able to create in Wyoming, I think was truly special. And the kind of that community is what played into my future decisions. I'm still a child. I'm only like 19. I feel like I haven't made too many decisions in my life, but one of the biggest ones was where to go to college. And I didn't go as far as India or New York like my dad and grandpa did. But I always had that big dream of going to the big name college and getting the accolades of top of my class and getting up there. Then when I was looking for the opportunities, I realized I'm kind of comfortable and safe in the state. I like the community. I like having that network around me. And sometimes it's scary leaving. And honestly, it kind of scared me. So I didn't. I stayed in the University of Wyoming, but I was really hell bent against going to University of Wyoming. And you can ask the admissions rep. She really pulled my fingers to get me to go here. But I realized that all those opportunities I thought I was missing out on were really right in front of me, but I kind of had to like search for them. I had to work for them. I had to find them myself. And I feel like a lot of the opportunities that I was able to get here at the University of Wyoming wouldn't have been available other places. Um, I realized that I may have sacrificed some of those big dreams for safety, but I really do think that like hard work can get you to where you want to go, no matter where you are. And that was kind of like what my dad taught me. He came to rural Wyoming with literally nothing and ended up building a business that I am so proud of to say. And I think that those opportunities, like some of them being, I'm a part of the Leadership Academy here at Wyoming, which is absolutely tremendous what they're doing. And I'm getting to learn about the opportunities that are around Wyoming, starting to work with women in business and build up an organization that kind of was struggling for a little bit, taking advantage of honors programs here. And it really was just hard work finding those opportunities rather than being like disappointed and kind of settling for the somewhere that doesn't have that big name or status that's attached to it, but I kind of built that for myself. But all of this kind of goes into like my next step in life, which is where do I want to go to work? Where do I want to live? Where do I want to raise my family? I saw my family move around. Even going this far, my dad wasn't very happy with me going to Laramie. He was like, no, stay closer. So, but I still feel those dreams like knocking on my door. Do I take that big step to go to the accounting firm, the Big Four, Deloitte, go to New York? Do I take that big step and kind of step out of my comfort zone, or do I strive for comfort and safety and stay at home and kind of use my hard work and determination to build those goals? And there's kind of like an opportunity cost of staying in Wyoming for me, because it's sometimes it feels a little disappointing to feel like there's something left on the table, and I don't want to feel like I'm leaving something behind by choosing to stay here, or if I'm sacrificing one thing or the other. So sometimes I feel like no matter where I go, there's something that I may be sacrificing, whether it's ambition or family, my relativity to family. I really value family. And so kind of in a big balancing act and a crossroads of where I'm going in the future. But I think like the University of Wyoming has taught me a lot about using opportunities around you. And I'm excited to see what Wyoming kind of has to build. Like I said, the Leadership Academy has taught me a lot that I didn't know, because I'm kind of in this little corner of Wyoming, and little did I know that there's this big, broad thing out there. But I still have those connections, kind of those ambitions pulling me out. So I'm kind of at an interesting place. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm excited to find out. So that's about me, maybe a little bit too much, but
Everybody, I'm Gwen, and I'm a sophomore here at the University of Wyoming studying political science and international studies. And the story of why I'm here today and interested in ultimately starts in high school. So in high school, I was a member of the speech and debate team. The primary event that I competed in is something called. And through this event, I was able to learn all about issues facing our state as a whole. But more importantly, I learned about ideas that people had for amending my own ideas. This solution-oriented activity that led me to the realization of that to create change in my communities. And this mission has stuck with me, and it's why I'm in the majors that I'm in today. I participate in the things that I do. I recently had the opportunity to learn from so many people who have committed themselves to this mission and work every day for this as well, and specifically in regard to the topic of this panel, economic development. Over the summer, I had the amazing opportunity to intern in government. Throughout my internship, I learned all about the amazing work being done at the state level. I got to see and witness firsthand all the work that goes into creating. One of the things that I got to work on was the NSF Co-Y engine, which is a 10-year, $150 million. And one of the main pillars of this is both in bringing jobs and opportunities to Wyoming and in connecting students to schooling. Another thing that I got to support and witness was the Wyoming Innovation Partnership. Education and this. All of this is to say that my internship taught me how much potential exists, the skills necessary. My internship, I've taken on a number of new roles on campus, and I've been able to use the lessons and the mentorship from my internship in order to help campus. I'm now the director of marketing for ASU Jobs for Student Government. I'm the academic excellence director for my Kappa Kappa Gamma. I'm also just finishing up a postdoc leader for the University of Wyoming. Now, each of these roles involves connecting people, generally making UW a better place for them to be. I hope that, like my mentors in the governor's office, I can make a positive impact on UW, just as they're doing in Wyoming. And values are key, and development is critical to allowing.
Awesome. How's everyone doing? All right, let's give them a quick round of applause. Good job. And I'll get started. All right, so I'm Ralph, finishing up my MBA here. I also am the executive director of a small nonprofit in town called Telehope that I fortunately started somehow. And so why did I do this? How did I get started? So I grew up in a small town, Cache, Oklahoma, population 2,000. And the nearest town near us was Lawton, and it had 100,000 people. But both places, not a lot of hope, not a lot of good things going on. And so growing up in this environment, I was like, wow, something needs to change. Both my parents immigrated from the Middle East, from Lebanon. Um, and so traditionally, you're either a doctor or an engineer, and that's about it. And as you can see, I failed. It's in the College of Business, but now it's all good. Now they trust me. But originally, it wasn't easy. A lot of doubt growing up that you need to go study for your ACT, SAT. You need to do this, that. Um, football, playing football is not an option. Playing soccer is not an option. So fortunately enough, in high school, I somehow became talented enough at punting the football. And the University of Wyoming saw me, and they decided, you know what, maybe we ought to give this kid a chance. Again, my parents barely have even heard of football. I don't even know if we had watched a single NFL game in my household ever. And so they didn't even know what it was. So when I got this opportunity to go, they're like, no, don't do it. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous if you go. But they were two people of the 2,000 in the town that were pissed off and frustrated. Everyone else was like, wow, we're going to have one guy finally end up go play Division One football. And so me being in this community, I'd always done some community service stuff. And when I reached that point of recruitment, kids thought I was a superhero. Me and my closest friends were all kind of getting recruited. We had a cool group. But what I realized is we're not that cool, and none of us were cool. My best friend was kind of deemed the rich kid at the time. But he was evicted from his house and living with me. And so that's when I realized that all this stuff on the outside, it doesn't matter whatsoever. And all these people looking up to us have no idea what's actually going on. And so this is where what inspired me to make a difference no matter what. And I was set on making a difference. Growing up in Lebanon, I was a soccer player, always wanted to go play soccer. And so I had an opportunity to end up going and playing soccer. I had an opportunity to go play football. My parents said no to football, so I ended up playing football. But also, the biggest reason why I ended up playing football was I knew that football was more popular. No one cares about you guys running around kicking the soccer ball. Everyone cares about football. Not necessarily the punter, but they care about football. And so I knew that coming to play football, I would have a greater chance to start this nonprofit. And so ultimately, that's what I came and did. And played is a big word. I only played for one season. I sat for three. Even then, when I did play, you know how punters go. We run out there 5 seconds and come back. It's the best life ever. But so after I had started feeling a little special. The teammates like you a little bit more. The coaches like you more. They give you a scholarship. You feel good. You get to call your parents and tell them, "See, I told you," but whatever. And that's when I realized that sports don't mean anything. Even right now, our guys are losing out there, but that's totally fine. They'll come back. It's a long season. Don't worry. But that's when I decided to start the nonprofit. Was that year after I started. I would look around and see some of the guys pissed off and upset in the locker room. You lose scholarships. Sometimes you get put on scholarship, but you lose it. You get benched. You get kicked off the team. Things like that may happen. And you see these guys just get completely defeated. I'm like, these are not the Cowboys. And this isn't anyone in athletics. You have a bigger purpose than what you do on the field. I'm growing up looking around at the lack of hope and seeing me and my friends having a lack of hope. I decided I needed to be the change. And if it wasn't going to be me, then who else was going to do it here? And so I decided, you know what, this is it. I don't want to punt anymore. And so I walked in, had a rough little meeting with the coach. I had some things to get off my chest, so I told him. I was like, you know what, if this ends up in me being benched, perfect. I'll start this nonprofit regardless. And so I ended up starting this nonprofit on December 6th, 2022. And basically all we do is we try and inspire our athletes and create hope for the kids in Albany County through our athletes. We partner them up essentially like big brothers, big sisters, but just a little bit cooler. We use our athletes, and of course I'm going to show that. And but this is really what inspired me to go out and help. And I do love this place. I love this community, and thank you guys for being a part of it. I love the support. and everything that you guys have done for us, whether you're in the business council or in the university. Yeah, that's me.
So DJ, I have a question for you. So we'll just let's dive into these a little bit deeper. So DJ, you mentioned that you are thinking about how do you balance your potential career in like a big four accounting firms, that kind of a thing, or the safety and security of Wyoming. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about how your decision to go to college is playing into that, or what you're thinking about as you move forward into the workforce?
Yeah, so I feel like my journey to college was kind of almost like getting me ready for a similar journey of possibly where I want to go to work. I think that same ambition of going to the Big Four is like the same ambition of going to a college with a big name, whether that be Harvard, Princeton, or Duke, or wherever, maybe Stanford, anything. I think that the Big Four has it's like a stepping stone. It feels like no matter what, it is that stepping stone to get up there. And so sometimes I feel like taking that step might be what I need to get up. But then at the same time, University of Wyoming, my decision to go here showed me that it doesn't always depend on that big name. It depends on like what you do with what you have. It really does. Wherever you go, but it still is like sometimes in the back of your mind. I mean, wouldn't you love to just go work at a big four for a year and come back? Sometimes that's what I've heard from other people is they'll leave and come back. And I'm almost like they're taking that step and then getting that experience and then coming back, bringing it back to Wyoming. I wonder if there's a way to just keep it in Wyoming, start here and build it up to that same place. Or if it is that big step that I need to take, if I'm listening to the ears around me and I'm wondering, I'm like, was that step what you needed to come back and find your success here? Or would you have been able to find that same success without leaving? And so that's kind of, I don't know. I feel like that may have been, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to just understand that there's that battle that goes on in all of our heads, but especially at this point in your life. That's a big question. Corbin, I'm gonna ask you a quick question about, so you grew up in Shoshone, which is a place where a lot of people go through because it's a thoroughfare to a lot of the tourist attractions in Wyoming. And what I would say is that Shoshone is also what we've seen at the Business Council. Shoshone has a lot of pride and a lot of excitement about where they think they're going to go into the future. And so can you tell us a little bit, now that you've lived in Laramie and you lived in Shoshone, can you tell us a little bit about how maybe the things that you're able to do in a community differ and what you like about both of them?
Absolutely. Growing up in Shoshone, it's a small little town, so everyone knows everyone. That's the thing, and that's an amazing thing to start out with. My biggest thing was our high school is absolutely amazing. You know, from Fremont County, of course, I'm a little biased, but Shoshone is hands down the best school in the county. Anyways, but they're just really good about supporting students. Whether you're going to go to college or whether you're going to go become a welder or whatnot, you know, they support whatever you want to do. A lot of schools I feel nowadays are you go to college or else you're not going to make it, and I think that's something that's nice. We're starting to move away from a little more, just because I know a lot of people that start working right out of high school and tend to make more to deal with paying for college and stuff like that. Also, we're just tight knit because we're farming, ranching, so kids learn to work hard, and they love working hard, which is kind of a crazy thing, but that's amazing to see, especially in that small community. Like when I first started my company, I got a call from someone in DuBois, like I got your call number from this guy, you got your number from this guy, and then it's amazing to see that network grow, even without almost me even trying. Your name gets out there so fast. And coming to Laramie, it's a different story, but it's also amazing the amount of support I have, especially in the college. I mean, I've met a ton of professors that will give me life advice or whether it's business advice, that tight knit. And I think you find that across Wyoming, especially I'm in the Leadership Academy as well. And we saw that a lot this last week when we went to Casper to cover the energy sector. I've spoken with 3 or 4 people from the actual academy personally after the fact. You know, I love that in Wyoming, you're never too important to help your neighbor, stuff like that. I think that's a great thing for the state, and that's a big benefit for kids coming to college here and stuff like that. There's opportunities here, Sometimes you have to find the right person, you have to find the right group of people, but there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. That's what's nice about us being a little smaller, is that opportunity is almost bigger than other places because it's a lot less of a saturated market for everything. So you can start something new here, and then you have the resources like Colorado, Montana, North Dakota, Utah to grow and expand that even more. So I think coming from Shoshone, it was a great experience with the community. Is they're like, oh, a company, I don't know anything about that, but it sounds amazing, and I'll help you as much as I can.
Cool, thanks. And maybe in a minute, we'll talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges you see with building a company here and getting the know-how you need to take it to the next step, especially in technology and aerospace. Gwen, if you have, if you're okay with answering this, I kind of want to learn a little bit more about where you see yourself in the future, because the sort of the political science bent or international studies, those kinds of things are, that's an interesting choice. So tell me about what your next few years are going to hold and where you see yourself.
Yeah, so I think that political science and international studies are definitely not majors that I think are super specific to Wyoming, that doesn't follow into a lot of fields, but I think that that's okay too. I mean, I think in my future, I mean, I want to continue getting more internships. I would love to intern in DC, Arabic right now, so I would love to go on a study abroad to the Middle East there. So yeah, just a lot of different things. I don't really know where my future will take me, but I know that there are so many opportunities that
Cool. And Ralph, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the MBA program and kind of how you see it setting you up for the nonprofit world.
And so a little bit extra too. So I'm also doing an internship with a venture capital firm, so the complete opposite side of a nonprofit. And that's because of the MBA program. And so what I've got to learn from this MBA program is it really does have connections. And originally I wasn't going to do my MBA. Part of that reason because my parents told me you need to go do your MBA. So I was like, but the MBA program is phenomenal. And like I said, I mean, the two guys up there, Ben Cook and Kike Girones, are phenomenal guys with a lot of connections. And it's also nice because they are connected with the Wyoming Business Council and they utilize you guys. And so I think it is setting me up pretty well. They give you a vast majority of information and different experiences, and you can apply them wherever you go.
Cool, thanks. And I want to take a quick little tangent here, Ralph, if you don't mind. Now, as a parent, so you mentioned that you want to do things that your parents don't like, yet your parents are kind of 2 for 2 on football and this MBA program. I'm not suggesting anything, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know, maybe they're not quite as dumb as you thought they were. I mean,
The rule now is what they tell me to not do, I'm gonna do. And if it works out, then I get to tell them like I told you. But
fair enough. If you don't mind, pass the mic down to Corbin, and we're going to talk a little bit about, Corbin, your businesses and how you see them scaling and how what the know-how that you're going to require to make those scale. So tell me a little bit more about those.
Yeah, so right now we just do basic drone work and stuff like that. I'm looking to expand within the industry and across, the state and then the world eventually, but that's a large scale. The biggest thing, I'll go through like the positives and negatives. The state's really nice about different business structures, actually, which I'm a total nerd, so I'll talk your ear off, believe me, about different stuff, but closed C corps and stuff like that. They make it a lot easier for a kid to start a company, which definitely a dangerous thing, but in some ways, that's in a way our future. I'm our future by any means, but there's ones out there that are, and stuff like that. So it's less restrictive than other states, which definitely helps on that level, just from an accounting standpoint, stuff like that. That helps, and then also one downside is definitely, especially starting in Shoshone. Though I had the community, we're still a pretty small community that knew nothing about what I was doing. Now that I've came to Laramie and been able to talk to people in Casper and stuff like that, that network has just grown tremendously. I've never expected to be sitting next to a guy like Josh, but now I am. It's just the opportunity in the state's tremendous. You just got to take that leap to try it, and that's where I really want to help push kids to that next level. Just because I had you guys said, unlimited ideas when I was younger, and then a couple years later, I saw someone doing it, and I was like, oh, I could have been doing that 2 or 3 years ago. So within my companies, I'm trying to stay ahead of that leap. Finally, narrowed it down to one thing in the aerospace to grow from, and the state definitely makes it possible, which is amazing. Having those people to assist that.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. So DJ, tell us a little bit about, so you have a sister who recently graduated and she's exploring her career. What's her path been?
So my sister is a big city girl. I think it comes back from our little start in New York. She loves the city and she was set on going the big corporate route. She's starting at a top 20 accounting firm, Eide Bailey down in Denver. And she wanted to climb that corporate ladder. And that was kind of where she saw herself. So I got to watch her make a similar decision though, because she was also she came to the University of Wyoming as well. And we had very similar like views. And I think it was very interesting to see that from me coming up because they're kind of following a similar path. But at the same time, she was willing to take that step to Denver, and I kind of getting to watch the move and how it works. And sometimes it's scary. It really is scary. I mean, she's moving down to Denver, and she loves Denver. She loves the city, but it's a very different environment. She doesn't know as many people down there. You have to literally start from the bottom. She's not too far yet because I mean, it was scary to leave family. We're still in driving distance, but it's scary. That was a big decision in her brain because she was thinking going to Texas or New York, and it was definitely in her mind to go somewhere bigger. But then yet again, that family kind of aspect played. But her dreams and where she wanted to go and her ambitions, moving up to like controller, moving up, kind of climbing that ladder, it happened to be perfect that Denver was the place for her, and it's close enough, which I feel like a lot of times happens, especially because Denver's so close to us. But like Laramie, Cheyenne, my whole life, we always went down to Denver whenever we wanted to do something. I mean, there's no sports teams in Wyoming, right? Sorry, Cowboys, but sometimes you got to go watch the Nuggets or whatever. But we always go down to Denver. So I feel like it was like a very convenient reason for her to go there. I don't know if I ever see her coming back to Wyoming, but I think it was because I kind of still have that connection to Wyoming. I like a small community. I'm not as into the big city vibes, I would say, as she is. But I think it was a really interesting perspective because we can kind of play off each other. And she's trying to sell me to come down there with her, but we'll see if that happens.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. So Gwen, you've had a really interesting and a lot of experience in a short amount of time in the summer to see maybe some of the differences between in this this engines project with NSF and the Colorado Wyoming engine. Can you tell us a little bit about how you see this regional partnership and how it can maybe affect the economy of Wyoming in a positive way?
Yeah, so the Colorado Wyoming engine, primarily it's called the Colorado Wyoming Climate Resilience Engine. So that's kind of what it's focusing on. It's just the impact of climate effects, wildfires and floods that affect both states. So when we think about job opportunities that are being brought in by the engine, especially in regards to new technologies, innovative tech, things of that nature. And so I think that building this kind of relationship with Colorado and then also making Wyoming a hub for that could be super influential and provide a lot of new pathways for Wyoming. And I think that we're already starting to see things like that come.
All right, thanks. So tell me a little bit, anybody on the panel, tell me a little bit about your classmates. And as you start to go to career fairs and as you start to look at what your future holds, what are you and your classmates thinking about when you think about where you might want to live? What are some of the things that are important?
Being in the MBA program, a lot of my cohort is thinking about, what are we going to do next? I will say the majority of them think about leaving to explore different areas. Most of them are from Wyoming. Like I'm thinking one of my good friends right now, Michael Shutterly. Yeah, very smart guy, but he wants to go down to Texas and just get a different view of the world. But there are a few of us that do want to stay, and I am one of them, for example, just because Wyoming is home now. I don't want to go back to Oklahoma. Those towns I grew up in are not my favorite. But Laramie and Albany County is now like a home to me. I don't know if I'll stay here, but throughout the state, I think there are a lot of opportunities, and the MBA program does do a good job of showing you that there are opportunities to stay here.
Yeah, so when my classmates and I talk about kind of where we want to live and that kind of thing, I would say the decision about whether or not we have a job there and whether or not there's availability to get a job is really the most important. Secondary things like housing, cost of living, uh, that environment. But ultimately, I think having a job that gives you security, gives you the wages you need, live somewhere is really
I think something that's a little interesting too, as well as like social aspect and like just enjoying where you live. I feel like a lot of people that choose to come to the University of Wyoming, where I've seen like my friends and we're from either from Wyoming or somewhere close. We chose to come here in the first place, so I feel like some of them are definitely more keen on staying as well, because I mean they chose to come to Laramie. And there's other places to explore. But I do think that there is some of that social aspect. Like if you come to Wyoming, you love the outdoors and you love kind of a small community vibe. And sometimes I compare Wyoming and Colorado a little bit. Sometimes Colorado can offer more of the big city vibes that I feel like some people are looking for. I saw my sister in that, and I find some other like colleagues and like peers and friends, some of my sister's friends, like deciding where to go, and it's really about where there's opportunity. Even when I'm looking at internships at the career fair for accounting, I see some companies that are in. They may have offices around the place, and a lot of them are in big cities like Seattle, Denver, and other places. And it begs the question like, do I want to move there, go out, come back? But I do feel like a lot of the times in the University of Wyoming, I see a lot of people with similar minds, which is it's interesting because it's kind of choosing the safety again. Though we're used to the small town community vibe, and so we're choosing the safety. And with like housing prices and stuff, people are a lot more skeptical to just jump out and try to find settle themselves into a new place because it's just so difficult. So I feel a lot of times we see people living at home or staying with their parents over the summer. Because I know I chose an internship. Internship for Senator Brasso this summer, and I could have chosen between going to Cheyenne or DC, but a lot of that played into, do I actually want to make money out of this internship, or do I want it to all go to my rent in DC? And so I chose staying at home because it was safe, and my parents accepted me at home. So
For me, I hear a lot of students mostly just wanting to leave initially to get that bigger company experience. Kind of playing up DJ's point is if you go to a larger company, I mean, say in the aerospace, everyone knows Lockheed Martin. You work at Lockheed Martin down in Colorado, you can come back and be like, hey, I work for this big dog down here. I think I should make a little bit more money. And so I think that's a big thing. And that's what two major things I think goes into play is, your paycheck. I mean, everyone has to revolve their lives around it for the most part, which kind of sucks for the most part. But you can make more money somewhere else to start. Maybe that might be a benefit. But then also playing up the other firms and few other stuff is like the recreation side. I know people come to Wyoming, live in Laramie, stuff like that for the community, outdoor stuff, stuff like that, without having to, live in the metropolitan area of Denver and Fort Collins and stuff like that. Especially if you're doing remote work. People love to come here to do remote work because it's open and it's beautiful and they're free in a way. So,
Well, thanks for sharing all of that. I think we're going to talk a little bit more to the panel and to some of you as well. But let's give them all a round of applause real quick.
okay. Good job.
So let's take a look. So we actually gathered data from all of you, and we also gathered a lot of data during our initial survey. 262 students from the University of Wyoming filled out a survey early on about their plans in the future. And while there are opportunities, we've heard 2/3 of those 262 students said that maybe or no to this question of, is Wyoming in your future? And the crazy thing, and we'll see it in a bit, is that data is borne out in reality as well, not just on a survey. And so let's dive into the data a little bit and see what's happening. Okay, so of the students who voted, it looks like 8 of them were unsure, 2 no's. So that's 10 of the 14. So it's like 70%. My rough calculation says there, but that's a pretty small sample. I think if there are any statisticians in the room, you're probably going to be a little bit upset. The other thing is that that sounds about right too. If I ask my kids what they want for dinner, they're unsure. So it's that sounds about right. All right, what's next on tap here? And now we've got non-students. So most of you thought that that students would have to leave. This isn't that non-students are about ready to leave the state. But I think what it says is our students going to stick around, and I think the prevailing data and our take in as non-students is that you're likely going to leave. That data is actually borne out as well. But thanks for everybody taking time to do that. And here's the real data. So this data is the number of people, the percentage of people who are born in Wyoming and then essentially stay or leave. So it says that 60% of the people who are born in Wyoming, by the time they're in their 30s, leave the state. That's reality. Okay. And that's based on big data. It's not the 14 of us that might have filled out that survey. That's pretty rigorous data. And one of the things that we also find, and this is a challenge, and I'll say, for one of the things that you realize is that as you go in your life and as more things sort of accumulate around you, it gets harder to have that mobility. So we like this idea that we could leave and come back. But the reality is of this data says that we leave and we don't come back. And so one of the things that we want to try to understand is how do we make Wyoming an attractive place, not just for the students that start here, but even for students that might not start here. And I think that those data points are the same. So I think that's a really pretty darn interesting take. And this is the challenge that we're trying to face with this, is how do we put Wyoming on an even playing field with the other states? Amy, you want to jump to the next one? Oh, sorry. Sorry, Rylan, you want to jump to the next one? So Rylan's in my blind spot. Yeah. All right. So what is the most important factor students consider about where they live and work? So let's take a look at that one. All right. So here's a little bit of a word cloud. I think this is an important thing. All right. So let's see. Students who are in the audience, tell me about nice community. Who wants to raise their hand and tell me a little bit about nice community? Did anybody say that? Nobody said that? Okay, sorry. Yeah, here, I'll come up and you can use this microphone. What is a nice community to you?
Well, similar to what you guys were saying about how in Wyoming, you're never better than your neighbor. That's kind of what that means to me, is that I don't want to live in a place where I don't want to go knock on my neighbor's door and say hi, because I'm, worried they'll be mean to me. I want to live in a place where I know my neighbors and I know people in my community. I can wave at people at the gym or just out in public and have a personal connection with them. That's what a nice community means to me. I want to feel safe when I'm out doing things. So.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing that perspective. All right. How about culture? Oh, wait. Yeah, culture. Anybody? I want to learn more about culture. So I do this for a living so I could wait you out. All right, we'll jump. I want to know about third spaces. Third spaces. Anybody? That's what you put. Awesome. All right. So Andrew, tell me about third spaces. And you're from Thornton originally? Awesome. That's okay. You thought I was just that good?
So for a little more context, third spaces, if you're not familiar with what that is, it's a space outside of work and home. So examples in the past are like church was a really popular one, in the 50s, 60s, bowling alleys, that kind of thing. The disappearing of third spaces has been linked to people leaving home or where they're originally from. So the lack of third spaces in Wyoming is kind of an experience that I've had here at the University of Wyoming. There's been some changes in the sense of there's been things added to the community, but I'm an RA. I've been an RA for about 5 semesters. It's going to be going on my 6th. So really the creator of third spaces and keeping people enrolled in the university is my big thing. I'm also a student ambassador for the university. So creating those places where people feel safe to come and have that break from home and family and also work. That's a very important thing to me in creating those environments. Yeah.
Think about third space. What about third spaces? What are you
Somewhere where you can go and there's something that challenges your mind and independently. I think an example of this is Katie as well. Something we do every Thursday night, as an example, we go swing dancing. So that's something that challenges your mind and your body, but it also gives you connection into your community and people that you're going to spend time with in other spaces. So it allows you to see people in other lights. That's why church is another example, or other sports, things like that.
Okay, so how about this one? Room to grow and proximity to family. Awesome. All right, Shane. And I appreciate all of these name tags. So tell us about room to grow and proximity to family.
So, twofold. I think the main reason why I said room to grow is that a main reason when people feel motivated to stay at their job and do well in their job is that they have opportunities to grow, whether that means climbing the ladder or however you receive feedback. I think that's a main driver in how I would stay at a career. And for proximity to family, I'm facing this whole because I love Wyoming and I'm from Lander, Wyoming originally. And I really want to be close to my family. I'm the same with Corbin and all of our small town niches. Um, I am facing this problem of wanting to see more of the country, but being close to my family. So my family will probably win out, but
When you
We don't
room
know.
to grow, what does that mean?
room to grow in my career,
Okay.
specifically. I do think that that can.
Things connected, or are those at odds?
The older I get, I feel like they might be at odds. But with my current career choice, I think that there are ways to grow in my career and stay close to my family in Wyoming.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so there are definitely things about jobs, availability of job availability, employment opportunities, economy. Who said happiness? I cannot wait to talk about happiness. Who said happiness? I do think the pursuit of happiness seems like a pretty American thing to want. So, but that's okay. We'll keep going. Short commute. Let me just say, yeah, that should be like part of our motto in Wyoming. Like that's a real thing. Like we have that one. Okay. Let's see. Let's jump to what non-students thought about. And so just for context, this is what non-students thought students cared about, right? All right, so let's take a look at this. Work opportunities, jobs that pay well, job opportunities, jobs, opportunity, money and opportunity, good jobs in our field. All right, so who said good jobs in their field? Oh, maybe I should do it the other way. Who wants to talk? And then we'll talk about the one that you did. Like, so students, if you thought to yourself that as you got older, you would be more willing to speak in public, I think the data is saying the opposite. Okay. So let's see. I think I met you earlier today. Let me see. Let me just double check. Yeah. Your name is Elliot. Okay. See, I'm doing pretty good on these names. It's like fortuitous. Elliot, talk to me about what you said.
Well, first of all, a little bit ago, you were talking about culture and things about Laramie that people like or don't like. And I have to tell you that I had a gentleman that I offered him a job, and his big concern was where were the slums that he had to stay out of and not get hurt. And when I told him there weren't any, he called me a liar. He says, there's no place like that. Well, you're wrong. Yeah.
Come on out.
The other thing is that work opportunities, I think it's been my experience in the 4 years plus that I've been here running a flight school that trying to grow a business in this community is extremely difficult. And that's because apparently, and it's just my opinion, I don't think the city administration likes economic development. And I see that as a problem for all of these things in terms of keeping students here, giving them a job, finding happiness. All of those things almost invariably come down to where can I earn a living and enjoy what I'm doing? And without things like companies that are willing to take on interns and stuff like that, you're just not going to have that.
Thank you, Elliot. I appreciate that. What maybe instead of asking folks, what they thought, what are some of the things that stick out to you as differences between these? Does anybody see things that might be different about this that they want to think about? Anything jump out? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Students are more focused on pay.
Non-students are talking about jobs that pay well, job opportunities, income, pay, job growth, grow. You think that's?
I don't think the students mentioned pay as much, or maybe at all. I don't think it was on their list at all. If you backed up.
So whoever said those things, I have a good job for you. It pays almost nothing. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But you're right. So when we look at this question, we tend to think about those things as really important things. I'm not 100% sure. I think people still care about pay, but maybe it's just not as high a priority. Do you think that that's the case? Do you think that that's true? Okay, great observation. Thank you very much.
Young student, generally speaking, you're looking more at a satisfying career, and then the reality of life starts smacking you upside the head, and you realize that the more important factor here is having the money to support your lifestyle, your children, your real estate, and that becomes a priority.
Yeah, I think that could definitely be a contributing factor. Although what I would say is that I probably shouldn't answer that because I've been smacked around a lot, probably so much that I probably shouldn't answer it. But I think that maybe we should ask who's a student in the room that wants to talk a little bit about where pay fits in your choices. Yes, sir. Up here. Yes, sir.
I think that, excuse me, I feel like modern day students might have put, pay or jobs that pay well a little bit lower on their list of priorities because of changing ways to look at a career whereas previously a lot of people, students, young people were interested in investing in property and buying a home and having children. We're seeing more and more that less and less people are interested in that, where, it's a lot cheaper nowadays to rent, even if in the long term it won't be as cheap. You can live off of a job that pays less well if you make those lifestyle choices, like, waiting to have children later, or choosing not to live or buy property. But I mean, I can't speak for everyone. I feel like another factor is that a lot of people who have the money to go to college don't have as much financial woes as those who can't afford to go to college. So asking students might not be an accurate representation of all young people.
Those are good insights, really good insights. I think both of those things could be explored a little bit deeper. And I think that that's one of the things that we're working to do, is to try to understand what's a hygiene thing. I think in a lot of cases, a job needs to have a certain amount of pay for it to be even considered. And then we look at those things like, what was the name of it? Third spaces? Third spaces. And we look at those things as well. So yeah, it's not that it's not important, but it's not maybe as important as others. So good thoughts there. Yeah, DJ.
We got it. We fixed it. We figured it out. It's just a button. But I feel like sometimes, obviously in college, there's a lot of kids who are supporting themselves or just learning kind of like how to do that financially. I almost feel like it's a little like we don't know the full extent of it yet. Like even if you're in college supporting yourself, you're working those part-time jobs. So you're used to that part-time pay, or you're used to like kind of like shuffling between the double life. And I watched my sister just recently like go through like salary negotiations. Like she hasn't had a full-time job yet. What is that first number you're going to ask for? What does that look like? And if she was taking numbers compared to like Cheyenne and maybe what she's getting in Denver, obviously like cost of living is definitely different. But at the same time, I feel like if I was personally looking at it, I may be thinking like right now, because I don't know where exactly I want to go, like the money might be the deciding factor. Like, okay, that little bit more. Okay, sure. Like you're going to give it to me. I'll take it. But I also feel like I have a distorted view because I don't know what exactly I'm going to go out there and get. You look online and you see like, if you're an accountant, you can start and you can make 70 to 90K, or you can make 150K in your second year, but is that true or not? And I feel like we don't have that reality yet of like a salaried position functioning off, this is your paycheck every single time. So that's just kind of my view on it of why we don't have that money yet. We might have a distorted view of reality.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, go ahead, Corbin, please.
And no offense to my non-students out in the crowd, but in a way, to kind of play off CJ, is you guys have experienced the real world in a way. You know what I mean? Don't have college, stuff like that. So you've experienced maybe even having kids, buying a house, having those expenses where you don't pay them, you lose a significant part of your life. And maybe that's, more so. And we see it from our parents and stuff like that. But you guys have actually lived it. So without that paycheck, you can lose, your kids struggle, or you lose your house, stuff like that. You default on loans, and that's never a good thing. I mean, most people know that, but some people have actually experienced that and never want to deal with that again.
Okay, so now we took a look at what's the second most important factor that students consider about where you live and work. So students said, now, like, I'm not trying to say that there's a conspiracy here, but man, if I was going to make a slide, like that's the one I would make. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. And what about non-students? Like, let's just jump, Rylan. Okay, so let's get a reaction from students. Gwen, you want to weigh in on this a little bit? Yeah, all right.
All right. Yeah. So in my mind, I think that pay would definitely be actually a first priority for me. So I think that maybe that's just different for me than others. I think that when we're in college, we have kind of this like aspirational viewpoint, and it doesn't really hit you till you graduate that like you need to provide entirely for yourself. And I have so many friends who've graduated and they go back to live with their parents because they didn't find a job, and they didn't find a job that paid well enough for them to rent or own their own house. So I think that pay would be the first thing. But then I mean, when we think about amenities and things like that, I do think that that is a really influential thing in where people decide to work, because that housing, childcare, workforce, that those are problems wherever you want to go to different extents. And so I think that things in Wyoming like local control, the rural nature of it, those kinds of things, those draw people back. And so I do think that that is a really important second factor in a lot of people's choices.
Good, thank you. Anybody else want to make any observations about this? Anything jump out to you as you see the two? We could flip back and forth. Rylan, you want to see what students said? And then back to what non-students said? Yeah, Mr. Law.
Yeah, I put amenities down. It's no different than some of the others. I guess you could put cool stuff, but I guess I saw that timeline. I live in Sheridan, and I remember when I moved there. It's vastly different now than it was when I first moved there. And then, pretty typical, we'd educate our kids. They'd go to school, college, whatever, and then they'd bounce to a larger community. And then what's been fascinating for me is over the last 10 years, we've added more restaurants, more breweries, more outdoor rec, better flight situations to get down to Denver and so on and so forth. And then seeing my kids' friends who had left come back and just kind of be in shock and are trying to figure out how to get there because of that. So anyway.
Anybody else want to talk a little bit, Sina, about the what you saw. Thanks, Mark, by the way. And I think you're seeing it firsthand when it can work and when there can be investments in those things. I think that's an important thing.
Thanks, Josh. I am actually the employer relations coordinator here for the College of Business. So my job is getting students jobs. And a lot, coming from the college and the state, is getting students jobs in Wyoming. However, we serve the students here, and if they don't want to stay in Wyoming, we have to find other opportunities like those jobs at Eide Bailly down in Denver, other firms bringing in people from Minnesota to hire our students, because that's where our students want to go. And we're not going to force them to stay in Wyoming, because then they, hate it here and feel like they were forced to stay here and they don't have a good quality of life. And so you just, like, if you love something, let it leave, as they say, and it'll come back maybe sometimes, but maybe not according to the data. Yeah, they don't come back. Exactly. However, I feel like a lot of the time students don't know what's in Wyoming. They think that they do, or they're from, Casper, and they're like, well, I don't want to go back to Casper, so I don't want to stay anywhere else in Wyoming. Or, sports rivalries in high school, so nobody wants to go to Gillette because of, the sports of Gillette. I don't know. I'm not originally from Wyoming, so I can't say, but I think that we're trying to educate students here at the College of Business of those opportunities that are in Wyoming. And it's not just about the job and the pay, but it's about what the job can offer you, or what you do outside of work, or professional development opportunities like a leadership Laramie or leadership Casper. And I think having those community conversations are really, really important. So we all know of those opportunities that are for students, so we can encourage students, not force, but encourage students to stay in Wyoming by providing them more opportunities and like knowledge of those opportunities. So thanks.
Good insights. Anybody else want to share a little bit about what they see here, or what they've maybe noticed in their job or in their experiences with whether they're staying, leaving, moving around? How easy is it to come back? Anything there? Okay, let me see. I think your name is Grace. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's Grace.
It's actually Ruby. I'm just kidding. My name is Grace. You definitely have. My name is Grace Durrell for context. I recently talked with my dad about me leaving Wyoming, and what I feel like is mostly because I feel comfortable here, and sometimes comfort scares me because it's less about I don't want to get too comfortable, because then I don't feel like I'm like almost like the third the third spaces, where it's like it doesn't feel like I'm moving as much as I would like to. And I think that's the same with like when I talk to professors or pick people's brains that I like care about and their opinions, is that we talk about money almost never. And so the things that are important to me, like culture and like opportunity to grow and that kind of stuff, almost comes from like those perspectives of people that I respect and honor. And so I think about money second because of the people that I talk to about it, because we don't really talk about money generally. So I think that is also like maybe a student versus non-student view.
Excellent point, Grace. Sometimes it goes like this: Olivia, Grace, Ruby, Maddox. So I think that one of the things that we have to understand is that it's not one thing, right? It's a very complex decision, which requires a lot more data than that. Rylan, if we want to take a look at the next thing. Okay, so have students taken advantage of internship opportunities in Wyoming? Take a look at that. Holy mackerel. At least all 14 of you answered the same amount of questions. That's good. That's really good. That's what the data says, actually. Okay, that's pretty interesting. All right. And then why or why not? So you might be thinking to yourself, okay, wait a second. If I answered yes or no, does that change what matters? And the answer is no. It actually doesn't matter. this is what's important as people think about internships. And I want to hear a little bit from students, if I can, about internship opportunities that you might have taken and what that was like. So who said yes to an internship? I want to hear a little bit about that. All right. Very good.
So I actually work for a small company that a student started here, and it's just the two of us. And I joined him because it was remote and I could do it from school. I could do it from home. The pay was good, and I was supporting a Wyoming business, a fellow Wyoming alumni. And so far, the experience has been great. I have a lot of flexibility, which is super nice. Ultimately, I'm not sure if I do plan on staying in Wyoming, but if I stick with him, I can work for a Wyoming company, even if I'm not here. And there's a big appeal to that because I really enjoy the community that Wyoming is and what his company stands for as it supports our economy and our community. And also time commitment was huge as a student as well. So just having that flexibility once again.
Can you elaborate? This isn't the part of this question, but can you elaborate on why you might not stick around? What are some of the drivers there?
Size is a big one, and just access to different things. And then my second reason was proximity to family, which I think is funny because it's the same thing my best friend said, and we didn't even plan that. But my family's originally from Indianapolis and Michigan area, and that's not something that's really in my control. Like, that's where they're at, and if I want to be next to them, I kind of have to leave. So
Anybody else want to share a little bit about their internship opportunity? Right. Thaddeus, here you go.
Yeah, so I'm actually I'm in 2 internships this semester. So no, I didn't. But one is so I'm a sales and marketing major. So one is in marketing, and that's actually through the Wyoming Latina Youth Conference / Center. So they have a big conference every fall. So I'm playing a big part in that, doing the marketing, the promotion, and running all the social media pages. So that's been great experience for that, like, base knowledge and background in that marketing. And then I also picked up an internship with Wyoming Sports Properties through Learfield. So I help with all the game day stuff when it comes to Learfield, their corporate sponsorships, hospitality, just making sure everyone has a great game day experience.
I don't think anybody's going to fire you from those internships. Tell me a little bit about what you don't like.
I'll start with the marketing one. So like I said, I think it's really great building that experience for my marketing background. So just having that on the resume and being able to tell people that I did that for a semester or a year really helps for job opportunities in the future. One thing I don't love is that it's not as structured as I thought it might be. So it's a lot of me doing my own work and not really being mentored to do that work. So it comes down to me doing a majority of that work and not really learning a whole lot, me more learning on myself while I do that. And then for the sports properties job, I love it. It's great. I do a lot of networking, meet a lot of important people, like corporate sponsors, CEOs like you, people that you want to know and need to know for my future. And maybe some things I don't like would be it does involve a little bit of grunt work. So a lot of setup, a lot of tear down, not every job has pretty aspects 100% of the time. So you got to put in that base work that maybe not everyone wants to do to kind of get your foot in the door.
Anybody else want to share? Or right, Sky? This is going to be interesting. Sky works at the business council folks, as well as everybody else, take notes of what she might not like about it.
Hi everyone, I'm with the business council, so I guess I can't really say anything negative. No, I don't really have anything negative, but I think the best part of my internship, the business council has a huge school first approach. So if I'm ever getting overwhelmed with classes, Hava over here is great, and she can sense it, and she'll be like, hey, if you need to back off, you can back off, focus on school. And that makes a big difference. If I was working a full, like, 40 hours a week at my job while trying to be a full-time student, I couldn't commit fully to either thing, and then I would start slacking in both. So that's a huge, huge benefit of my internship.
And oh, two more over there. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So Tori could pick up where Sky left off, and Priscilla can tell us a little bit about her experience. Priscilla, you go first, Priscilla.
So I actually applied to like a lot of internships last year, but then I only got like 2 people to reach out to me. I only got like 2 people to reach out to me, and most of the internships were like, we can hire you, but you're not gonna get paid. So I was like, no. And I was also working 2 jobs, so I had to like quit them, and I couldn't quit my job to go do an internship that was free. So I couldn't do it. Yeah.
So the pay in that case is
Yeah. Because I was losing 2 jobs to go take the internship. Not really.
not right now.
Mhm.
Just school. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks.
All right, so I also work for the Wyoming Business Council. I do marketing and publicity with Amy Quick, and I love what I do. It's helped me figure out what I don't like doing versus the things that I love to do. So, like, I don't like doing press releases. I am not good at them. It is not my favorite thing, but I've loved doing the social media marketing. I think the team that I work with has been very supportive and very great. And honestly, I've just loved it. I came back for a second year and I created to come back for a second year, we created our own project, and it's been so fun to be able to spearhead my own project and take it in whatever direction I want to go. All right. So in the beginning, my biggest challenge was that I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. My job was not solidified as to what I was doing, what I was supposed to be doing, or anything like that. So it was something where I had to create that for myself. I kind of had somewhat of a guideline, but not a lot. And that was really challenging because for the first like 6 months, I was very confused as to what I was supposed to be doing. And then from then on, I just kind of took it and I did a bunch of research and I said, well, these things clearly aren't working. Let's change them. So those are the things that I struggled with, was being able to figure out what am I doing?
It's super useful feedback. Actually, Tori and Sky both are happy to share feedback about where they are, what they're looking for. And I think that's a really good thing for employers to understand, is what are the things that are really good about a job or an internship, and what are the things that cause a little bit of challenge, so that we can structure them in such a way. All right, so we've got some more data, I think, right? Do we have some more data, or is that it? This is the other option. Okay, so here is a little bit of data about the other option. When they, instead of a yes, no, it's the other. Anybody want to talk about no opportunity in their field? Does anybody struggle with that? Yeah, Andrew.
So to kind of preface, I don't think this isn't any of my answers. But to kind of preface with this, and I've had conversations, I'm really into the organizational and like operations field. And a lot of the internships I've had since I was a freshman haven't been through the College of Business. They've been internships I found in Colorado on my own. A lot of them have been in the robotic space, in the autonomy space, AI spaces, blockchain spaces. So I think Wyoming on the forefront of a lot of these industries and a lot of these new technological spaces, but I don't think it's at the same caliber that Colorado holds. An example, since I was in high school, actually, this is the first year I haven't worked for them. But I worked for this company called Outrider. It's autonomous yard hostler trucks with robotic arms on the backs. They're all self-driving. But I helped with the engineering in that. I was able to do auditing with that with accounting firms. I managed a $10 million inventory cage. So just those kind of opportunities, I don't feel like are as prevalent in Wyoming yet. So that's kind of my take on that. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what, not just the quantity of the opportunities,
Mhm.
but like tell us a little bit about how the work was.
So quality even is what kind of what you're asking about. So quality of the work, I think also Wyoming does provide a lot of connections and there's a lot of pride in this community, but I feel like Wyoming is close knit almost to the point where they don't let outsiders in. And I almost feel like it's to the point where, in comparison to Colorado, Colorado lets people in and it's very more connection based to other states and other coasts. Whereas Wyoming, they like to keep it, you're not in Wyoming, you're not a part of Wyoming. And I feel like that's kind of, I think someone might have put it up there, but it's very, for lack of better words, intimidating maybe, or ostracizing, ousting people, because someone not from Wyoming, it kind of feels hard to break into that space. Again, prefacing, I've gotten residency here, so I really do believe in this state, and I really want to stay here long term. But in the beginning, that was kind of a harder part of that.
I think that's super, it's super good information to have. And it's super good information to realize that that's going on. One, thank you for sharing it. I think that takes a lot of courage. I think there are some other things on that list that take a lot of courage to say that maybe sometimes we don't like to think about. And I think that as employers and as those folks who are creating the future right now, we need to realize that those are important and they're things that we need to take into account. Okay. All right, let's take a quick look. Oh, so this is the non-student perspective of how easy do you think it is for Wyomingites to stay in the state? Okay, let's see. Any thoughts? First of all, I love the normal distribution that we have developed there. Like that's, again, not a conspiracy, but that seems really, really nice. So nobody said that it's really, really easy. Anybody want to make a comment on that? Anybody want to think about that or share their thoughts on how easy as it might be? Yes, sir.
Hey, so just my take on this and seeing this data, I'm not at all surprised. A lot of it has to do with what I used to do for a living, but I don't think it's any secret that Wyoming actively experiences what's known as brain drain. Like folks come here, we equip them for success, then they leave. I've talked to a lot of former students. Hi, Grace. I've talked to a lot of people who are in my age group and talking about that 40 something group that they've left. And over and over and over, I hear there was no opportunity. There was never a chance. What I wanted to do for a living was change the world. And I found that Wyoming was a place that was too small for that. And I think that it makes sense that that is the perception in this room, that everybody says, well, maybe if you luck out, or maybe if you can find a place to fit in really, really quickly. But very few, I mean, that's sorry, not a math person. 88% of people said it's great, or it's 88% of people said it's not great. It's hard. And I think a lot of folks in this room, just looking around at some people I recognize, it's hard to stay here because I think there's a perception that there's not a place for them to fit in. And I think that in some ways, that's a bit of an advertising problem. I spend a lot of time talking to young people, convincing them, hey, no, really, you can. I promise, if you're willing to stick with it. But I think I'm not at all surprised by these numbers. This is what I've been hearing for most of my adult life. And I think that we could do a lot as employers to help open doors and to help kids especially. And I'm sorry, guys, I don't mean that like that. But young people, like we could do a lot to open doors for young people just by telling them what we do. Because I also talk to a lot of employers who are like, I now have to look outside. The skill sets aren't here. And that's simply not the case. It's simply not the case. It's just a matter of getting those two groups together and talking, and events such as this one kind of help with that. But I think that we as employers can do a lot more with outreach to say, yes, we can use your skill set. We might have to get a little creative, but you can stay. And I think that we all have a type in our minds. We want to hire a person that does this, 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 this. And we could do a lot more, I think, to meet people where they're at.
Thank you. Yeah, great comments. Great comments. Yes, sir.
I guess I've already spoken, so I might be taking a little bit too much time, but I was born well, I wasn't born in Wyoming, but I moved to Wyoming. I moved to Laramie when I was like 3, so kind of grew up here, and I love Wyoming. Wyoming is great. I currently work with the university at the Survey and Analysis Center, but I don't think that I'm going to stay in Wyoming after I graduate. That's because I want to do graduate research somewhere else. But I feel like a lot of other students feel the same way, right? We see over and over again the states that young people are going to, places like Minnesota, places like San Antonio, places like Texas, right? It's that phenomenon, brain drain. And more, you see that the places young people, the generation of fresh college graduates, they're going to places where young people are going to. It's a positive feedback loop because it's simply like in sort of this post-COVID boom, excuse me, when a lot of jobs are being made available, especially to college graduated young people around the United States, young people have a lot of choice. And we see that young people are choosing to move to swing states. And even Colorado, right? Back in 2004, Colorado voted red. So it feels like, and Zoomers, Gen Z, whatever you want to call them, right? It's one of the most like politically active age groups that is in the United States, apart from people in retirement age. So I study economics, so I kind of am interested in this sort of thing. But I feel like a lot of young people, when given the choice, would like to live in a place where they feel listened to, where their votes are being counted and matter. And in Wyoming, like it's really not something that Wyoming business owners can change, because the electoral college is such that even if 49% of young people vote a certain way, and you know how young people vote, it won't really matter. And if 51% of young people vote, then all of a sudden we're ignoring the other 49%, It's sort of a sad situation, but I, for one, know a lot of my friends, when they graduate, they're going to be moving to places like Georgia, places like San Antonio. And that's really too bad, because a lot of us I know like Wyoming. It's gorgeous, the people are really nice, and there are opportunities, but there are opportunities everywhere, and we're being forced to make a lot of choices. And yeah, I guess that's my thoughts.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And tell Mike Dorsum hello for me. Oh.
I want to talk looking at the angle of international students. Most of us came here, and it's like Wyoming is the first place we got to know, or the first home we had in the United States. And then we love the people around. They smile with us, they laugh with us, they help and stuff. But it's like there are opportunities around, but we don't have a lot of information about the opportunities or where to get them. So I feel, or I believe, that if a lot of education go into where to find jobs, how to go about it, it will go a long way. And then the second thing I want to talk about is I don't know, maybe the perception about us, because during the summer break, I went to Africa to do research, but I had a lot of international students who were willing to work or take in internships. And when I came, they couldn't work because it's like when they applied, they were like, are you Black? Are you white? And then when they take Black, they never reached out to them. So it's like, excuse me to say, but that kind of mentality about Black people and stuff also affect us in a way with regards to getting job opportunities around. So when I speak with most of the Black people here or international students, it's like, Wyoming is great, but they don't want us here. So we have to move. And that is the reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for those comments and speaking that truth. I appreciate it.
Josh,
Anyone else?
if you don't mind.
Yeah, Ralph, please go ahead.
For like
the non-students.
Your
Why
mic
did,
might not be on. Nope. The people, we're also broadcasting this, so you need to use the mic if you can.
good, good. Why did you guys end up coming back? Because as we looked at the stats, it shows that you leave, or why did you not leave, or why did you leave and then end up coming back?
All right. Yeah, I graduated high school in Newcastle, Wyoming, and then I left the state after that, after college. And the reason I didn't come back immediately was I'm just even looking right now. I just checked on my phone. If I, as a student, was to graduate today and look for a job in Wyoming, I guess with job titles that my degree gave, there's 3 options, and they all say 3 to 5 years of experience required. And I know that, again, as now being in business, like, I expect people that come into my business to know what they're doing. And I love it when people have experience and they can contribute right away. And it's scary to try to develop people into roles. And so that's something I knew that I was up against. I'm in a pretty fast-paced environment, as I'm sure a lot of us are. And so one of the reasons I left was to get experience to be able to write my own ticket. And so that was something I had a desire. I did want to stay, but I just didn't quite have the opportunity. I was beat out. I was told no for each of those 3 job opportunities that was posted at the time. And then, so anyway, I went out of state. I was able to build my career there and then essentially write my ticket to come back. So that was something that I was able to overcome, kind of that experience gap that was kind of a gatekeeper that didn't allow me to get in the door the first time. Oh boy, I think we hit a lot of those points up there of, I do have my third space here. I have the ability to buy a house here. Taxes are low. And again, some of those other reasons that those of us on the non-student side said, money, career progression, XYZ, hey, those mattered to me. And now I'm able to get those here. So that was a big reason there. I have family in the area. So I was able to come back. I had that safety aspect. I know that my daughter, who's really young, she's going to be able to go to a school that I'm comfortable for her going to. She's going to be able to walk down the street and I'm not scared, for her safety. She's going to be able to drive on streets that I deem as safe. There's lots of those things. And again, just freedoms and again, friendly camaraderie that I do enjoy. I enjoy the outdoor spaces, so many different things.
Thank you. Yes, sir. There you go, Everett.
Thank you. So I think like many of us that grew up in small town Wyoming, I wanted to get the hell out as soon as humanly possible. I dreamed of bigger things, things that I didn't think were possible living in Evanston, Wyoming. So I got out, I explored the world. I got to see both through military and non-military sides what the world has to offer. And the more I traveled to different places, the more I realized that, things are more similar than you might think no matter where you go. I, growing up, thought that there wasn't enough people like me politically where I grew up. There weren't people with the same interests. But when you start reaching out to the people around you, you start really realizing that people are the same. So with that being said, understanding what was so similar about the rest of the world with Wyoming, the differences are in Wyoming, I'm able to afford a home. I'm able to stretch my paycheck so much farther than, say, some of my colleagues that are living in Colorado, in New York, in Washington. I have so many of those things that all of us want, whether it's having the car that we want, being able to go on vacation, just stretching that money further. That's what has made me stay in Wyoming, where I thought I would never step foot in this state again.
Thank you. And I think as kind of just to kind of keep us moving, let's talk a little bit about youth involvement in decision making and community initiatives. How important are those things? Students said that this is not shocking, right? Like that we should expect that, right? That people by and large that are in this demographic think that their voice should be heard. We actually agree 100%. Okay, we believe it's very important. Okay.
Yep, you're all right. You're all right. And also, I think this is, we just really want you to stay. And so we, no, I mean, but in all reality, I would say when you're asked that question, when you're sort of forced to make a decision, you say, yeah, it's really, really important. And so because of that, I think we need to think about how do we continue to engage? How do we continue to utilize the conversations that we have in order to create the places that people want? And so my challenge to all of us who said yes, and we're going to get to this, you could leave that up, no problem. My challenge is to all of us is this. One of the things that I don't want to happen from today is sort of like, that chicken and egg problem. We don't know how to solve it, so we'll just kick it down the road for somebody else. The people who are in this room have the power to make decisions, to make change. The people who are in this room have the power to have their voice heard, to say, actually, I think it's like this. Now, we may not take it at face value. We may dig into the data. We may try to understand it better. But this is the process by which we could do it. And we are the people that don't have to realize that chicken and egg problems, gosh, they just exist. That's not what we're here for. We're actually here to create the change, not to lament the facts. So it's really easy to kick the brain drain problem down the road another 10 years. But I think what we're saying is that we don't want to continue to kick it down the road. We want to put things in place that experiment with how do we stop this challenge. And so as you're talking with folks, ask the deeper question. As you're talking with students, ask the next question and the next question and try to understand what's really going on so that then we can analyze it and understand that maybe there are changes that we can make. Maybe there are policies that we can put in place. Maybe there are policies that we have in place that are causing problems. Maybe there are ways that we can utilize the resources we have in our state, whether that be money or human capital, to be able to put it into a place where people can find opportunities or know about them. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us who are in these positions, which we all are, to be able to do that. And so we're not here to lament the chicken and egg problem. We're here to begin to look at solutions that are going to break those eggs or cook those chicken. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this. So this is what would allow students to be more involved. I realize this is really small for a lot of us. Thinking of Amy right now. Yeah. All right, so I'm happy to do that. So having the connections along with feeling like I'm going to be heard, not just I'm giving input for no reason. Joining in conversation in local politics, being granted the opportunity, awareness of opportunities, awareness, being aware of what's going on, easier access, more opportunities, awareness, easier access, be more involved, passionate about it, and maybe more promotion of opportunities. Yeah, Corbin, do you want to add to that?
At least for me, I feel one thing that can maybe solve this is you just see the awareness of opportunities, having more opportunities, knowing about the opportunities. One big thing that I think Wyoming faces a lot is someone goes to a company and then they see it and they're like, oh, this is a mom and pop shop. Their family is going to take over and stuff like that. But there's a lot of cases that that's not really true. You know, you have outsiders come in and actually help run the company, maybe even promoting that there's an opportunity to grow and marketing that more instead of just saying, you know, you're going to come in and be an intern and then, you know, then we'll talk about your future in 3 or 4 or 5 years. People don't like to wait. I mean, especially the younger generation, we have social media, we get impatient very, very quickly. So if they know something like that could be coming a lot sooner, then that might make them want to stay. And then just knowing about it too. So not being in the know makes us get even more impatient, and then when we see an opportunity somewhere else, we might as well take it.
DJ?
I feel like something I noticed, this was recently because I was a part of the Leadership Academy and I see some of the members here. Whoop, whoop. But something I really noticed when I went to Casper, and I'm one of those Wyoming kids that kind of looked around and I was like, "Ah, I hate these other places because I didn't like going there for sports. Like, you guys stink, like, whatever." And I thought Casper didn't have much to offer, if I'm being honest. I'm from close to Cheyenne. And so I saw Cheyenne. I was like, it's probably the same, whatever. But I went to Casper and what I really noticed is the buy in from the community they have. The amount of opportunities that I saw, like, growing in Casper of community spaces for people to build their businesses, just a plethora of new restaurants and creative new reasons to build third spaces to get people out of their houses was absolutely incredible. And it took a lot of community buy-in. And then, but also, I didn't know about it. Even if there is community buy-in and it's happening, I didn't know about it here in Laramie. We talked about, Cena kind of talked about it. I know she left, but like, getting kids don't know about the opportunities around the state. I feel like I was like a blinded. Even during career fairs, we have those businesses that come back and we see them coming. They're normally the same companies that come through, but I don't see a lot of the spread. I saw some when I was looking for accounting specifically. I saw Casper, I saw Cheyenne, I saw Laramie, but I didn't see anything else. And obviously, there's accounting jobs everywhere else. It's everywhere. But I feel like sometimes that awareness kind of like comes into that, and it does take community buy-in too. Like with Casper, like Casper is absolutely booming right now because of their community buy-in that they had to build those opportunities. And I almost feel like sometimes Wyoming, certain places can be scared of change. That's a perception. Like, so kids are scared because kids don't want to come here because they're like, oh, they're not going to change. Like, people want it to be the same, but if you want it to grow, you somewhat have to give into that. And I feel like that's what like a lot of kids are looking for, awareness and stuff like that. But also, I do think we're kind of an anomaly. Like, a lot of the kids that spoke, you guys are involved in the community, but like 90% of college kids are being active in like organizations, clubs, building that network, getting those people involved in more ways, like Leadership Wyoming, in ways that are attractive to just even just getting people across Wyoming to come in and speak. And that really taught me a lot. And now I'm hearing from like people who are outside of that, have graduated college, like into their career 20 years, and they're like, what would you have done if you went back to college and do something different to be more active in organizations? And I guess I don't really know how to get kids to do that at the same time, because I feel like we're the kids that are involved a little bit.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shock there. Go ahead, Gwen. Yeah.
Yeah, so in my mind, I think that the way to get people to stay is to get kids invested. I mean, we just talked about that. I mean, we're all here because we are invested, but there's so many more kids who aren't invested. And some ideas that I think would be helpful in doing that would, one, be hold more focus groups and hold focus groups with people across all campuses, all majors, across Wyoming's 8 community colleges. Ensure that all different types of opinions are being heard, and maybe even ensure you're holding focus groups for high school students who aren't planning to go to college, because once again, we're here because we have the means to go to college, but not everybody does. I think another thing to do is increase the amount of internships that you have in public policy related positions. I know that I brought a more useful perspective, you could say, to the governor's office, and I think that that was helpful in some regards. I think a lot of other people have seen that in public policy related internships. I think another thing that doesn't necessarily directly involve students right in the moment, but would be to ensure that there is a comprehensive exit survey at UW and across Wyoming's community colleges that asks these kinds of questions, to ensure that we're getting that data, and then we can use that data in order to make the place better for students. Ideas that I would have.
Okay. Ralph?
No, I love this place, so I get biased. And I don't love the instant gratification where you earn it quickly and you move up, but I do understand that now that's what's sought after. And for me, unfortunately, my internship is in Denver, and I have to get stuck in traffic, and it pisses me off. And I put it in park, and I sit and wait, and that's another reason why I love Wyoming. I never have to wait in traffic. It's fine. I just go. Uh, but something that I wish I had known was, where are the bigger internships in Wyoming? That's what I was chasing after. I wanted the big stuff, like the venture firm in Denver is phenomenal. Unfortunately, it's not in Wyoming. And so for me, it is the awareness. I didn't really know, and nothing was presented to me of, this is the big opportunity to go get in Wyoming, or I would have tried.
So today, hopefully we've all kind of found some, what I would call, entry points into solving this problem. We're not here
to lament. We're here to do stuff. And so there are some ways to act now. So you got a little sticky note, which hopefully you put your name on. And if you are so inclined, there are some whiteboards up in the atrium where we're going to go here in a few minutes. Take that sticky note and put it on one of those that you want to be involved in. Because I think that it's really fun to have these. You get to eat before, you get to eat after. It's all the fun. We have door prizes. But really what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop teams that want to work on this problem, develop solutions, experiment with them, and take the next step. And again, we want to integrate this thinking into our solutions moving forward. Okay, so that's the next step that we'd ask you to take. Before we do the door prizes and all of that, I want to give, I think everyone deserves a round of applause. Thank you for being here. I also really, I think we should, I think a standing ovation. I don't think you should ask for it, but I don't think I would have had to, for the panel. That such great information. Thank you. And now we're going to put you all on the hook to hopefully have you join some teams. But first, a couple of these door prizes. Now, if the person who has the ticket that ends in 111, who has 111? Okay, so who has 111? Oh, Landon has 111. Okay, Landon, you may come up and you may choose either the bag toss or the cooler. Oh, oh, geez, it keeps getting better. I feel kind of like Oprah a little bit. Like underneath your chair is a trip to, so this is a tailgating package. Landon, are you 21? Okay, so you'll put soda pop right in that thing right there. Whole bunch of waters, that's right. But you're a business student, so you could probably put some waters in there and sell them. Okay, so whichever one you want to take, you get. All right, so the cooler and a gift card. Awesome, it's a tailgating package. You bet. All right, now who has ticket 107? Oh, excitement. Okay, you just won. You just won a bag toss. Way to go. Yeah, rock on. Yes. So thank you all again. Please spend a little bit more time up in the atrium if you can. Discuss, network, think about ways that we can work on this. And again, if you want to be involved in the decision making and the future of this, put your name on one of the whiteboards, or put your sticky note on one of the whiteboards that are out there in the atrium right now. All right, thank you all.